The wind howled across the plains as Crazy Horse, the great Lakota warrior, sat in the shadows of a dimly lit guardhouse. His face, hardened by years of battle, was now etched with sorrow. The land he had fought to protect was slipping away, and now he too was trapped, his freedom stolen. But this wasn't the end he'd imagined. His death would not come in battle as he had always anticipated, but in the cold, unforgiving hands of betrayal. In 1877, after years of fierce resistance, Crazy Horse had finally surrendered. His people, the Sioux, were broken, herded into reservations by the U.S. military. The warrior who had once stood as a symbol of hope and defiance now faced the end of his long journey. A journey that had been filled with glory, tragedy, and endless fighting for survival. The night of his death, the air was thick with tension. Crazy Horse, now a prisoner, was being held at Fort Robinson, Nebraska. The military, fearing his influence even in captivity, had decided that he was too dangerous to remain alive. And so, in the dead of night, with no warning, soldiers would come to seal his fate. Crazy Horse had been moved to Fort Robinson under the belief that he would be treated with respect, that his surrender would bring peace, that he could return to his people in some way. But peace was never part of the plan. He was confined to a guardhouse, surrounded by soldiers who feared what he represented, a symbol of resistance, even in defeat. It was the night of September 5, 1877, when Crazy Horse would make his final stand. Tensions were high, and Crazy Horse, ever defiant, could not accept the life of a prisoner. He had once fought for his people's freedom, and even now, confined and broken, that fire still burned within him. As night fell, Crazy Horse, in an act of desperation, attempted to escape. He knew the odds were stacked against him. He was outnumbered, outgunned, but still, he fought for freedom, the only way he knew how. But the soldiers, ordered to prevent any escape, had been waiting for just this moment. When the struggle broke out, the inevitable happened. A soldier named William F. Crook, under orders, moved in swiftly with a bayonet. The strike was sudden, and before Crazy Horse could react, the blade sank deep into his side. Despite the brutal wound, Crazy Horse tried to break free, staggering away, his blood staining the ground beneath him. But the damage had been done. His life was slipping away as the stars above flickered coldly down upon him. With his last breaths, Crazy Horse uttered words in his native tongue, their meaning lost to history. He had fought with everything in him, right to the very end. His spirit, untamed even in death, would never fade. The warrior who had once stood as the face of resistance, the man who had led his people through countless battles, was gone. His death, a betrayal, would mark the end of the Sioux's last hope. Crazy Horse, the great warrior, had fallen, not in battle, but in the hands of those who feared him, those who had broken his people's spirit. As the news of his death spread, the Sioux mourned the loss of their greatest leader. But the story of Crazy Horse didn't die with him. His name would be carried across the plains in whispers and songs, and his legacy would live on in the hearts of those who would never forget the price he paid for freedom. Crazy Horse's death was a turning point. The last great stand of the Sioux had come to a tragic end, but his story would not be silenced. The land he fought for would remain in the hearts of his people, and the echoes of his defiance would resonate long after his final breath. Thank you for listening to Deserted Trails. Subscribe for more forgotten stories from the old frontier.